Money. Research shows that 79% of Americans believe more money will make them happier. So what is money? I asked the professor of economics at Bridgewater State University to answer this question.
Money is basically a store of value so that we don't have to barter, because it's hard to figure out how many chickens do you need to buy a new Toyota.
Now, with a basic understanding of money, I think it is important we look at the history of it. 770 BC. Around this time, the first metal coins were created. They made them circular so they were easy to grab when reaching into pockets and weren't sharp to the touch. They were also made from bronze, because in order for this currency to be worth something, it couldn't be common. It couldn't be something you could just pick up. Also at this time, money had an actual value, and not just an agreed upon value. For example, a bronze coin was valued at the amount of bronze that it was, and a gold coin was valued at the amount of gold it was. In today's currency, the dollar amount is decided by the people who use it and how much it is worth to them. The first actual global system of valuing money was the gold standard, which started in England in the 1800s. This standard tied a currency's value to gold. So in the US, $1 US was worth exactly 1/50th an ounce of gold. But the supply of gold was not a fixed amount, so countries started to drop the gold standard, including the US in 1971 under President Richard Nixon.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
If the value of the dollar is no longer determined by the value of gold, what exactly makes $1 worth $1? Well, instead of a commodity-backed system like the gold standard, we now have something called a fiat currency, which has no actual value and is backed by the government. The value of the dollar today is determined by the economic principles of supply and demand in the United States. The government financial systems control this process, with the Treasury and the US Mint responsible for printing the money. However, with the rise of digital businesses and the increasing use of iPads instead of cash registers, the traditional method of money printing is becoming obsolete. If a government is no longer physically printing money, how does currency flow in the economy? Most of the currency is in the form of digits on electronic devices. A significant amount of money is credited to commercial banks by the central bank of the country. The central bank regulates the amount of money it transfers to commercial banks based on economic circumstances of the nation. But what does this mean for the average person? It means the value of money is not set in stone and can fluctuate based on various factors such as inflation, economic growth, and government policies. In fact, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw the government take unprecedented measures to stimulate the economy by sending out stimulus checks directly to citizens. While this may have provided some temporary relief, it also caused inflation and lowered the value of the US dollar. During COVID, the US government started printing money at a rate faster than it has ever been printed before. Right now, around 40% of the US dollars in existence were printed in the last 18 months alone. And because the output of the country hasn't really increased, the price of goods and services have gone up. Things like lumber, gas, and food have all began to rise because the government has been printing money at a faster rate. Debt is a subject that affects many Americans, with approximately 80% of the population being in some form of debt. Despite this fact, a significant number of people do not understand what debt entails and how its components function. It is a well-documented fact that even the mere thought of having to pay off debt can be an immense emotional burden. No one wants to owe money to someone else, but with the cost of living continually surpassing earnings, loans have become a necessary evil that most people cannot do without. For instance, one may take a loan out to purchase a car, start a small business, fund their college education, or even acquire a house. Only a select few can afford a house outright without taking out a mortgage. Yet everyone needs a place to live, so some individuals may choose to rent, while others opt for a mortgage loan from a bank. It's important to understand that banks aren't out here just doing good deeds. They're actually for-profit organizations, and the way they make their money is through something called interest. Interest is the extra amount of money that you, the borrower, have to pay the bank or financial institution for using the money they loaned you. Think about it like this: the rent you pay for your apartment, you don't actually own the apartment, but you get to use it as long as you pay a fee. It's the same thing with the money you use to buy your house. You don't actually own that money, but you get to use it as long as you pay the fee, which is the interest on the loan. This concept is also used in the form of a credit card, which allows you to buy things now and pay for them later with interest. Pretty much everyone uses debt as a tool to buy things they want at their expense later. Some people believe that credit cards are an easy way to collect a large amount of debt and be stuck in this pit that you can never pay out of, while others see it as a valuable tool that helps them build credit so they can buy more expensive things like houses or cars on this debt system. No matter what you believe in, you have to be careful when using credit cards so you don't spend money that you can never pay off. Being wise with your money, saving well, and increasing your income will allow you to invest. Investing at its core means putting your money into something to earn a profitable return. It's basically like making your money work for you. You can invest in things like stocks, bonds, or maybe even houses. And your goal by doing this is that you hopefully see a greater amount of money than you put into it. It is common in investing that the greater the risk, the greater the reward. For example, buying a bond is a safe investment, but offers a low return, while buying individual stocks can be risky, but can also be extremely profitable. Investing your money in many assets is usually the way to go because your money is safer and can still grow. It's like the famous saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversification of your investments allow you to make money, but also have a safety net if one of your investments go under or loses a lot of money. If you have a low amount of money to invest in the stock market, then purchasing shares in an index fund, an ETF, or a mutual fund is probably the best way to go because you get broad exposure to many different companies instead of just one position. A mutual fund is a professionally managed investment portfolio that pulls money from a bunch of different investors, which allows the investor to diversify their portfolio easily. An index fund or an ETF are similar, but instead of a very broad range of stocks, it's a specific group of stocks, say energy or tech companies. The most popular of these probably being the S&P 500, which represents 500 majorly publicly traded US companies. With diversification, you can take comfort in the fact that when some companies are down, others will likely be up. Saving. Saving is a very good way to ensure having money over the long term. Even if you are working a part-time job, putting away some of that money to save is a good habit to have and will help you be better with money in your future. Saving is also good in case of emergency. It allows you to have peace of mind if something happens, like your car breaks down, something gets stolen, or if you get sick and can't work for a while. Saving money will allow you to have a backup plan and will help you in the long run. One way to ensure you save money is by treating it like an expense or paying a bill. Act like the money you're putting away isn't yours. This will help you not think about it and not dip into this money unnecessarily. The government is also in debt. Currently, the US is around 31.38 trillion in debt. This debt is obtained in the forms of bonds and treasury notes, which are basically just pieces of paper that say the government will pay you so-and-so amount plus interest. Right now, a 10-year US Treasury bond will return you 3.5% on your investment at its expiry date. This doesn't even keep up with inflation, which this year is at 5% and last year was at 6.5%. Regardless of this, people around the world buy these bonds and notes, and the government uses the money. But when it's time to pay these bonds back, the government has already spent the money, so they pay them back with new money that they create through the Federal Reserve, which continues to make new money out of thin air to pay back these bonds and notes. The more this money is created and the more money that is in circulation, it just causes inflation to rise and the US dollar to go down in value.